Hello, everyone. I'm Frank Farmer, and today's episode is my promised long-awaited trilogy. Excuse me, in mental health. Uh, it's been a lot of scheduling conflicts, a lot of trying to get this done, but we finally got it done. Hello, Darkness, my old friend, part three, and there are a lot of things that are triggering and disheartening, and I just wanted to give everyone an outreach for that. If you need someone to talk to and you don't want to talk to people in person and you're trying to build up that trust, uh, my sponsors have made it available to where you can talk to people via video like so, or through text like you're texting a friend or a loved one, and that is betterhelp.com. Please do not be afraid to reach out and get help. Utilize it, and I even have a promo code for 15% off. That's betterhelp.com/lastson23. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Frank Farmer, and this is another episode of I Tell You What. This is the final installment in Hello, Darkness, My Old Friend, and we have none other than Dr. Roger Davis here to give us his side from a professional perspective on it. How are you doing, Dr. Davis? Thank you for inviting me. Thank you. Thank you, man. No problem. Thank you for making time. I understand your schedule is very busy. Yeah, believe me, it's yeah, it's kind of been blending in. So yeah, seriously busy, but grateful to actually come on and actually share in this particular discussion. It's definitely one that I think needs to be spoken about. For sure. I really do, based upon all the different, how would we say, opportunities we've had, not only as a country, but definitely looking at it from a, how would we say, I want to be polite as I'm stuck. For sure. I want to be polite when we start as a, wow, a phenomenon. That's the word that comes to mind. A phenomenon. For sure. And so, and I've been keeping my ears as well as my eyes peeled on a lot of, oh, I want to be, see, I'm trying to be politically correct because I'm here. If I was in a classroom, I could do what I want. Well, that's just it about owning your own podcast. You can be as organic as you like. If you would like to be politically correct, that's fine too. But speak from the heart. Let the people know, man. Okay. Well, really just looking at all of the incidents post-COVID, and not only the incidents, and I'm kind of leading in, and I really wanted you to introduce it, but I want to lead in with the incidents, and hopefully during our discussion, I'm definitely going to talk about some of those incidents and the impact. Not only did it have on us as a country, but the impact that it had on us as a, how would you say, resolution. Because there's been a lot of data out there on some of the things that have happened, and access to care has been one of the greatest barriers, as well as access to possible assessments. And so, again, like I said, once we get to talking, I'll kind of touch both of those with some very pivotal events post-COVID that is kind of going on, and this whole question about core purring. I definitely want to address the core purring part of this particular discussion as well. For sure. Um, I myself have shared in some of my, on episode one, I shared some of my internalization of things that have occurred throughout my life, pre COVID and such. And as you've stated, there's things that are going on and people are attempting to navigate post COVID. Um, and episode two, I had a very dear friend, Christina Cooper. She was on and she was sharing aspects that have
she shared like a very wide range of things that have occurred pre-COVID and things that have occurred in her life post-COVID as well. Um,
Okay. Great.
and and now here we are. As I said, like we have your perspective as well, to kind of as you put it, bring kind of a resolution to everything full circle, so people can see a greater dynamic of things and have a
Right.
better understanding of things, should I say?
Exactly. And I know we're kind of this year is this third part of that mental health awareness. I'm hoping.
For
Hoping
sure,
I'm
it
speaking
is. No, no,
right.
yeah, this is the mental health awareness. You are correct.
Yeah, and the reason I wanted to address it in that term is because I'm sure that a lot of the workable definitions have been talked about when it comes to mental health and the difference between mental health and mental illness. I mean, if that hasn't been talked about, I would love to kind of share something very briefly
Floor
before
is
we actually
yours.
dive in,
Yep.
because there needs to be a clear distinction between the two. And that clear distinction is that mental illness is something that's diagnosable and treatable.
For sure.
Okay? Mental illness is something that's diagnosed and treatable. Keep that in mind as we have this discussion.
Yes, sir.
And as well as it, and the mental health side. The mental health side is the actual treatment, the actual programs that we have in our communities and in our public that actually, give these individuals opportunities for recovery and for resource development and what I would call treatment. And treatment entails the individual, the group, the family, the psychoeducational counseling, participating in day programs or work programs, anything that would allow them, looking at medication management and things of that nature. And I really want to kind of throw those things out there when we look at the difference between the actual illness and the actual treatment, which is mental health, which we're talking about today, which I'm very excited about talking about because of the various trends and some of the data out there has changed post COVID as well as pre COVID. And there are some actual illnesses that are really very prevalent post COVID. And I definitely want to talk about those couples that are out there that are very subtle and cunning. And it's one of the reasons that individuals are not seeking treatment right now because of how subtle and cunning those two particular mental health or mental illnesses are.
Mm.
So hopefully during the conversation we can address those as well and look at some treatment options for them and look at some of the stressors that are involved with these particular ones rearing their head post COVID. Because there are a lot of things going on within our country right now that are taking what I would call a policy approach to treatment.
Right.
And as of this point, there's been, I think, allocated, and please don't quote me, I just kind of was reading the other day that they're actually, and this is from SAMHSA, they're actually looking at about $1.8 billion that they're getting ready to pump into mental health systems throughout the country. And the focus of that money is for what we call community care, and I like that.
Mm-hmm.
We're definitely talking outpatient because we are going to talk about the different levels of treatment when it comes to mental health because that's the focus today.
For sure.
And I would definitely love to kind of address those things as well. Let me shut up. But it's just a
No,
lot.
I
It's
love
just a
it.
lot.
I love the passion. I love the energy, man. Like that's what this is all about. Like ironically enough, this podcast was it flagshipped during COVID. Like I think Florida was coming off of it was on the back end of COVID, like, and the country was getting ready to open up. Not that Florida ever shut down, but the country was getting ready to open up again, and I had time. I always entertained the idea of doing a podcast, but for the first time in my life, I found myself having time to actually dive in and explore the complexities and the nuances of making a successful and making a podcast that had meaning. I didn't want to just be one of those run of the mill guys out there doing generic stuff. I wanted to do something organic. I wanted to do something natural, something different. And I've been blessed to have this opportunity to produce something like that.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again for inviting me, and I would love to have this conversation. I really would. So I'm very open. Like I said, I have a lot, that actually I want to contribute, and I'm praying that it would allow individuals some self-help resources when it comes to this particular cunning and battling affliction, which is mental illness. Even though our mental health systems currently are overrun, they really are, and we are not. And I tell people, and they hate when I say this, I don't think we were equipped when COVID came and the collateral damage of COVID that has happened. And those are some of the concerns that, as a clinician, we have. I mean, right now in this country, suicide rates are spiking, and
100%.
suicide rates are spiking at such a level that it's very unbiased. And what I mean by unbiased, we're talking about 8-year-olds committing suicide. Come on, come on, come on, Frank. An 8-year-old for real? Okay, what bills does that 8-year-old have? I mean, help me out. What stressors, do that 8-year-old have that would make them kill themselves? What is going on? And when I look at that, I look at another trend, and the reason I say this, I look at another trend, and a trend is social media, the impact of social media on mental health,
For sure.
and the implications of social media on mental health. And I'll let you go ahead and ask the
Uh,
question from my end.
no, for sure, I agree. So you've got social media, and I've noticed that people are addressing social media as if it's factual things, as if it's reality, as if it's I can reach out and I can touch someone physically, changing their chemical makeup, changing the way their day runs by simply typing a sentence or two on my Facebook, on my Instagram, on something like I can really gravitate someone's energy by just a few sentences. And I come from a different time. Like I don't know, it wasn't like that when I was coming up. Like when I was coming up, like you call somebody a punk, a sissy, this, that, or the other, and derogatory words. They just it was like okay, sticks and stones and stuff, but these would still they would rile an emotion in you, and then of course if something physical followed, boom, you're in a fight. Like this has changed your day. But again, when I was coming up after that fight, whomever you fought, like that was it. Like you move on, life goes on. Like it wasn't something that was held and uh pushed to the limits. These days, you have to be careful for the things that you write. I'm surprised that this podcast is still syndicated today because I could have sworn more than one episode was going to get me canceled. But and that's the reality that we live in now. The social media gods, as I put it. That's the pantheon that we live in now. You have this group of people or this group, and they will band together on social media to decide whose voice should be heard and whose voice shouldn't be heard, and what's bullying and what isn't. Like I understand bullying is a very real thing. I'm an advocate. I hate bullies, but for me speaking my mind, and my opinion, and my earnest thought from my heart, that shouldn't be for me expressing myself. That shouldn't be held under scrutiny. I shouldn't have to be afraid just to speak, especially if a direct question is asked. Like people shouldn't be afraid to speak, but that's what's become of us. That's what's become of the world. People are walking on eggshells. People are trying to be politically correct, and they're
Exactly.
afraid to say what they really mean.
Mm-hmm. And the reason I brought up social media is because it's a contributing factor to the topic that you're we're talking about today, the mental health part of it, as well as the mental illness part. And I love how you summed it up when you said that there are these authorities out there, and they have a censorship going on.
Mhm.
And that particular censorship I don't care who hears this. They're not accepting responsibility for the collateral damage it's having on millions of individuals, ranging from the ages of probably 6 all the way until 85. And they're not looking at the actual impact that it's having on their mental health. Because you mentioned one that we never thought that we'd hear that would have the impact to drive not only preteens, but teenagers to death,
For sure.
to kill themselves.
For sure.
You mentioned bullying. I think the term that they use is cyberbullying.
Yeah.
And they actually have criteria for cyberbullying that can be referenced as a mental illness, as a part of mental illness, by the way that they reference it and due to the fact of what's happening. And I can foresee in the near future, based upon social media, based upon all the outlets and how people are attached to their cell phones, attached to their tablets, seeking that like button. It's conditioning. It's conditioning. That's basically what it is. It's conditioning.
Very true.
And people have been drove by that conditioning if they're so how would you say adapt to getting all these likes, and when they don't get these likes, they fall into one of the categories that I want to speak to today, and that is depression.
Sure.
That is depression, which is one of the mental illnesses that we're talking about. Anxiety and depression right now, Frank, are paramount and relevant across age groups. And the crazier thing about these two, you've got outlets that perpetuate that. Social media is one of them, and I would stand by it. Social media is one of them that perpetuates depression and anxiety based upon what we're talking about. That acceptance is what they're seeking. And I loved it how you said in older times or in older days, we focus more on physical activity as opposed to keyboard activity. Or keyboarding. And then we also have supports. There's no supports when you're out there by yourself on a Facebook and you're dealing with people who are addressing you in ways that are not being monitored, reported all you like, but it's the frequency of these interactions that drives an individual to depression, that lifts their anxiety, that creates that depression. And a lot of these individuals are not aware. They're not aware. And they've probably been experiencing it for years. And they're not aware of their behaviors in their home, at school, at some of their leisure activities or recreational activities of individuals or adults or peers watching these type of chronic behaviors or these inconsistent behaviors and the intermittent behaviors on top of that. Man, you can't even imagine what it's causing. You can't even imagine what it's causing because if they're not able to articulate some of the barriers that they're faced with when it comes to these types of attacks, and I'm going to use that word, attacks, it has I want to be, it has an overwhelming impact on an individual's psyche. And I'll just kind of leave it at that.
No.
And I think it's crazy. Go ahead, Frank.
No. That was very well. That was very well put. And it does, and it really does, and that's one of the things that's disheartening for me to watch, like the degradation or desensitization of the population of humanity. Period. Like you said, there's conditioning. They're just conditioned that if I get likes, I'm popular. If I get likes, I'm popular. And then all of a sudden the likes stop. They don't know how to process that. You've got your Instagram models, you got everything, man. And these people truly believe that they've been deified, that they're being worshipped like a god or a goddess, and they're doing these things and they're doing great things. And while that's becoming a point, and that's becoming monetization, and I support, like I said, I support that monetization and them having a second income. But as soon as that stops, it's like they believe that something is wrong with them. They internalize it. They're just like, all right, no likes means I'm doing something wrong. It doesn't mean that that something else is going on. That means I'm doing something wrong. So then they internalize it, and then it manifests itself outwardly because they're just like, all right, something's wrong. So now I got to go get Botox, or now I got to go get lymph injection or implants, or whatever cosmetic surgeries would have you. For the males, and even some of the females, now I got to go take certain supplements to accentuate my body, to make myself physically more appealing to the masses so I can get back to the likes. My health be damned. I need to get back to the likes. That's where I belong. And what happens to said individual or individuals when the likes don't come back, when they can't get back to the likes?
And you're right, because I tell people, there's no manuals out there. There are no manuals out there to deal with what you just expressed. None. And the great thing of it is it's all supply and demand. It has an economic base to it. And in the midst of the economic base of meeting that particular demand, you're losing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I heard, and that's what I'm seeing. I'm one that really believe that our country right now is morally bankrupt because it's all about that mighty dollar.
100%.
And as a part of that moral bankruptcy, we're hurting. We're becoming more sicker. Mm-hmm. We're becoming more fatter. We're becoming more complacent. And these are all symptoms of what I would call a progression into anxiety, depression. Some of those real basic, subtle mental illnesses that over time, duration we're talking, and a number of frequencies, and lack of intervention or lack of an opportunity to actually go out and find out why you're having these major lows, why you're having manic periods in your life. The way you described it was basic manic depression. It was like a bipolar disorder.
For sure.
Because all of a sudden you're on top and the world is beautiful, great. But all of a sudden the lights go away and you're crashing. And personally that you don't have the capacity to appreciate that you may be slipping into an area that may harm the way that you exist. All of a sudden you're starting to call into work because you're feeling low.
Right.
All of a sudden you're not going online like you used to. You stop working out. You stop interacting with people, isolating. Because all of a sudden, I like how you said it, the limelight is disappearing.
Right.
The limelight is disappearing. And you're not even exposed to people that could actually talk with you or share with you what they're seeing in this progression. Mm-hmm. And basically, I love that example because that's the best example when it comes to what we're talking about, mental health. Because when you start at the top and you crash and you don't have what I call adaptability, mm-hmm. resources, and capacity to determine if in fact this is going on with you, you're going to stay in the dark. And that's going to skew a lot of the numbers that we're seeing when it comes to actually seeking out treatment, for that. I'm not saying that everybody who experiences it are prompt or predisposed for depression. I'm not saying that. But we know that everyone is predisposed to anxiety. And we know that anxiety is created based upon expectations and successes.
For sure.
And based upon the roles and statuses that an individual have to take on during their normal days. Mm-hmm. It can be something as simple as not having enough gas to go to work. You just created an anxiety for yourself. You just created an anxiety for yourself.
For sure.
And it's just like that.
No, you're absolutely right. Like, people are gonna stress, like, cause say if work's not less than 15 miles, like you are stressed out. Man, how you're gonna get to work? Life goes on for other people. They have jobs, they have families, they have lives, they have responsibilities. They can't drop everything and come, chauffeur you to work or make sure you get to work. That isn't one of their responsibilities. That can be something that they do to be kind, but that's not one of their prevalent responsibilities. They don't have to do that. So now your heart's beat, your heart's beating, your heart's constricted. We don't know if you're on your last leg at work. We don't know what all these outlying forces that are upon you could be. Something that happened recently that I want to touch on, a childhood hero of mine, uh, Jason David Frank. He was the Green Power Ranger and stuff. He uh, he died due to self harm recently, and everybody was shocked and they were taken aback and they didn't know. And me, I'm always diligent to not comment, to not state my opinion of something until I know the full story. So I couldn't really say what was the issue, what wasn't the issue.
Yeah.
But it turns out that he was going through, as the story developed, he was going through a very, very nasty divorce, of what he perceived was the love of his life. And if you backdate all of his social media and all of his interviews and stuff and everything, like his wife was his rock, that was his biggest support system. His family, he believed he had a family unit. He believed that he had a healthy family. His wife also is a martial artist. Um, he was helping his wife set up her own social media output, her own studio and stuff, everything. Like, she had everything she could ever want. She wanted, however, she wanted 70% of the things that he's accomplished on his own merit when they split, whenever they would divorce, had he lived. She wanted over 70% in the divorce. And these are things that were stressing him out. And I'm pretty sure there was other things that we may or may not ever be privy to that was going on. But he wanted to work out their marriage, which again would have given her 100% access to finances and such. But she wanted to break up still. She wanted to get what she was gonna get, uh, and he was distraught. Even in some of his later interviews leading up to it, he was distraught. His last interview, when you realize that that was his last interview, is reminiscent to me of watching some of Robin Williams' later interviews. Like, you see the pain on his face, masked in comedy, masked in courage, and it's just like this man's hurting, and that's something too. Like, you never know whom is hurting and who isn't experiencing depression. Is That's not something you can necessarily read off bat.
Beautiful, beautiful. And you're right, you're right. Um, when we look at this particular affliction, depression, because it's so subtle and chronic, uh, and there are some things that actually exacerbate the depression. One is definitely alcohol. Alcohol
Mm-hmm.
definitely exacerbated. You know, to some it's a cure-all. Drug usage, you know, things like that exacerbate the depression, and it also um, uh, distorts the thinking and perception. You know, it do. And I was definitely going to mention relationships because in our current climate, relationships play a major role in depression as well as possible threats to suicide, you know, coming up. And people need to understand that suicide is, I guess, clinically defined is hopelessness. You know, hopelessness is suicide.
That's
You know,
crazy.
it's when you get to that last piece of hope, when you lose all hope, people think that it's a whole different thing, you know, and there are so many external factors that causes hope to be lost, and relationships is one of them. You know, relationships is a very powerful um, uh, opportunity for individuals to experience what I call deep dread and loss of hope. And it's based upon their perception and the longevity of that relationship and the time that they put in into, you know, that relationship. I have a saying that I tell people. It's like uh, miscommunication in relationships is based upon the fact that one individual wants something that the other one don't. You know,
Correct.
miscommunication. And it's really powerful when I offer that to people because right now couples therapy is on the rise. And I think couples therapy is on the rise because people are trying to reconcile. And I know that during COVID, divorce rates actually spiked. They went up a lot because people found that communication was a major issue between them, and they had what we would call things that allowed them to kind of functionally get through their marriages without interfacing.
Right.
And that the particular barriers coming out. But with COVID, and we were all kind of locked down,
Yeah.
we had to communicate with each other. And all those differences started to rear its ugly head. You know what I'm saying? So I just had a good friend on the same level with what you shared, separated from his wife during COVID, and he just committed suicide. But he did it through alcoholism. He drunk himself. He refused treatment. He refused any type of supports, and he felt that there was nothing he was doing was wrong. He drunk himself to death. Every day he drunk himself to death. I remember getting a call from a good friend, and he talked to me about it because of my background in substance abuse, and I kept telling him, I was like, man, those are real powerful signs you're doing. And I would always try to refer him. I said, well, please get some professional help for him. If nothing else, just let him go in and talk to someone. I said, because he's on a very ugly, slippery, sliding slope right now. And the thing and remember, I keep using words like cunning and baffling.
Right.
Because this individual had been experiencing depression for over a year. Didn't even know.
Mm.
And I think he had about 30 days sobriety before he committed suicide. Isn't that interesting? 30 days of sobriety.
It really is, because like, I don't know, like I don't know what it is about the human psyche. Like the brain is like as vast as the ocean to me, because you got someone that will give away their belongings. They'll start checking off stuff on their bucket list. They'll help someone change their tire. They'll be the most benevolent person ever in the days leading up to it, and then without warning. And then you've got some people that commit suicide accidentally, like they just want to feel something, and then they'll accidentally commit suicide. And then you've got people that will go the whole 9 yards on purpose, and they'll hit this euphoric period, kind of like your friend. They'll 30 days sober, like it'll seem like, okay, they're on the other end of this, they're better, and then for whatever reason they go completely 180 of that, and then they go deeper into it, and pedal to the floor, and it's done. But for all the books I've read, all the movies I've seen, all the people I've talked to, I've seen that there's no concise, no clear cut path or map to a tale, to a red flag of, hey, this person is about to commit suicide. Because it can be as easy as you run into a friend at the store, everything's good, you're talking to this friend, they're buying groceries, and then they commit suicide.
And you're right. That there's no way to quantify hopelessness. And one of the things I love to say is it's really based upon the actual person that's experiencing. Are there symptoms? It's been proven that symptoms don't really show themselves. You know,
Right.
that whatever is going on with that person is going on with that person, and they, within the self-talk within them, make these decisions. And it kind of reminds me of those two celebrities that committed suicide on the Hulu. I mean, they were at the top of their game.
Yeah.
The one that just got raised, over $1 million raise, just got a chair on a TV network. I think it was either Fox or CNN. 30 years old, dead. No signs, no symptoms. it's kind of baffling. It's really baffling. But then I also look at the climate of our country right now, the climate of our country, and it's a lot of the things, a lot of the stressors that we are enduring as a people within this country. And I'm telling you, I mean this with all regard, the economy, relationships, the economy, relationships, I'm going to throw those two at you, are precipitating factors to people, and I'm being honest, practically killing themselves.
Yeah.
Killing themselves because of the hopelessness that they see, and that they are actually experiencing. When you look at the economy and you look at all of the hikes that they're having with food costs, housing costs have practically tripled. Okay? Unemployment. Okay? Individuals still suffering from COVID and those barriers. Relationship issues. I mean, I could keep going. They're just there in front of us, and there's no resolution. There's no resolution for any of it. And I can't imagine a single-handed household trying to deal with these types of issues. And the thing that is even more profound, is that I believe that there's going to be a spike in when it comes to gender, when it comes to this whole issue. I think that there's going to be a spike in females when it comes to not only suicide but mental health issues. Because right now the trend is that there are more female-headed households dealing with these economic issues. And the other part of that is that in these female households, they're not allowed 80-hour pay periods. They're only allowed probably less than 40.
Yeah.
Because it's prevalent right now that part-time employment with no insurance, with no health insurance, anything, no time off, anything, that families are actually having to get 2 or 3 jobs just to meet those particular needs. I can't even imagine the impact on their psyche when there's no way out of it. And that's why I keep going the word of hopelessness. And that's why I keep bringing up these two common issues that are beating us all up, even from an acute standpoint or a chronic standpoint. And that's anxiety and depression.
For sure.
Not looking at the history of these individuals, their family members ever had bouts of mental illness, in the family. Not even looking at those factors, but just looking at factors that are right in front of us that we can't even help them to or correct. So for me, with those two and with suicide being an option, probably being the only option. I mean, what happened here locally? I think it was a mother that tried to kill her and her kids.
Yeah.
Locally.
Yeah.
I remember it was like, I'm going to go in the water. All of us were done. Why is it? What is this that's driving us to suicide today? What is it? And the only thing I can think of, within reason, is our economy.
Yeah.
I'm being honest with you, Frank. I mean, it's our economy. And I know people go, why is this dude saying that? Well, because it's a precipitating factor that causes hopelessness. And it's also divisive. Those are stressors. All of that is stress. And the body can only take so much without what? Support or resources to get through it.
Sure.
We don't have that.
Yeah.
And our mental health system currently is not equipped to deal with this circumstance or situation. I don't care what you say.
And like you mentioned,
it's not. When you go to therapists now, Frank, they're booked 2 to 3 months out. You won't get a session for 3 months later. You probably commit suicide by then. It's ridiculous out there, but just an observation. Just an observation right now.
Yeah. And like you said, with your friend. Like people turn to self medication. They may not have enough money to pay a bill or to get something fixed that needs to get fixed, but they turn to the liquor store that's right there on the corner, or just a couple of blocks, and it's just like, I need something to numb this pain. I can't cope. I need something, whether it be alcohol or it be drugs. They need something to help them get through. And then,
Food, smoking, any
yeah,
of that,
yeah,
all of it.
yeah,
And because all of these create what we call health risk behaviors, which actually turns into disabilities, medical disabilities, and death. It's the truth. There's nothing you can do. And then this access to health care. Access to health care for these part-time families, that's not going to happen. And public health right now is overrun as well. I mean, it's if you look at all these stressors that are we having to deal with on a day-to-day basis as humans, there's only so much we can take. I love the old adage: if pressure could burst an iron pipe, what do you think it could do to my flesh?
that's real now.
Without any supports, without any medication or treatment, just on my own. Come on, man. I'm gonna lose. I'm gonna lose.
That's real. That's truth, man. Like, yeah, you just said a whole mouthful. Like that's there's me and my
It's
wife.
devastating, isn't it?
Yeah, me and my wife, we go shopping, and we notice every day like the price of groceries is just astronomically. It's just constantly on a upward slope. There is no give to it. There's no breaks to it. We've recently truly doubled down and invested in couponing. Like normally before, we'll be like, we'll get a coupon or whatever, toss it out. We're saving every coupon. She has a Ibotta app or whatever. She's couponing it up, and you know what? Between last month and this month, since we really in earnest started using coupons, there has definitely been a bit of a give. There's been some weight off of our grocery bill, and it's crazy. Like I'm almost having to
You know, having
make double just to put food on the table for my family, and that's not even accounting the bills.
and the beautiful thing that you're sharing is you're a two-headed household.
Yeah,
Think about single-headed households dealing with some of the same issues, seeing the same things that you're seeing. Wow, man, that's all I can say.
yeah. I mean,
Wow.
I can only
And
imagine.
the crazy thing is that yeah, yeah, and the crazy thing is we look from a gender perspective, those are females doing these things, man. They're doing it.
Right.
I can't imagine what they're going through. They're doing it, and it's wow. It's, my hat's off to them. I'm serious. I'm just like wow. I
Hmm.
mean, my hat's off to them. Wow. That's all I can say is that my hats are off to them because I can't imagine what they're going through and the cost that they have to try to deal with on a daily basis.
Right.
Don't let them have some underage kids because daycare is also a great barrier,
Yeah.
which creates that anxiety and depression. I mean, it's ridiculous, man. Everything right now is a owner's market, and I mean that it's an owner's market. Wage earners, laborers. We're not in a good place because we're not at that table.
Right.
And the collateral damage just from that thought alone creates so many different circumstances that we have to find a way to navigate through. And if we don't navigate through it as a village, we're going to lose as individuals. That's just my humble opinion.
I concur. I agree 100% with that opinion. Like, I don't know, man. Like, that's what it is. Like, that's what our economy, that's what our country has driven us towards. Like the middle class. I remember there used to be talk of the middle class being broken under the pressure, but the class wasn't broken under the pressure. The middle class has been eradicated. There is no middle class anymore. We're back down to square zero. We have the haves and we have the have-nots, and that's those are two categories that we're in. And just like you were saying, like If you're not a consumer, you're a producer. And if you're a producer, things look real good from where you're sitting. Things look great. They're just like, all right, well, all this stuff is out there. So, yeah, I mean, do what you will. But if you're a consumer, it's rough.
It's very rough. Yeah, it's very rough. Yeah, it is. It is, and all it and everything that, and from my humble opinion, everything that we're speaking about contributes to our mental health system and institutionalization, and definitely to the biggest barriers or to the biggest things that are actually happening. And those are, individuals are being drove to suicide. They're being drove to leave this world, and not drove to leave this world. They're losing their minds. And what I mean by that, through anxiety and through depression or through a history of mental illness with no access to services. It's a lot going on. It's a lot going on. And again, our systems aren't equipped to handle three things that we're talking about. I don't care what you say. We're not. We're not equipped to handle it. I mean, because right now, mental health in this country should be a major priority,
Right.
because there's been multiple historic things that have happened that should let you know that mental health is an issue. And I'd like to start in Charleston, South Carolina, at that church.
Yeah.
With yeah, I'm just being honest. I mean, because all of those have mental health implications. Buffalo, New York, the school shootings, okay? The club, that last club that just got shot up.
Right.
I mean, so all of this, everything that we're saying contributes to all of these behaviors, even though these are individual acts. And we've yet to learn the background, the mental health background of these. But the thing that's even greater for me is that everything is policy oriented now. It's a political debate. This whole thing that we're talking about is a political debate. That's what it is. They are politicizing everything right now. And in the midst of the political debate, you have individuals that are falling between the cracks. They're not even seen, they're not even known. And their needs are just being completely ignored. Completely ignored for the politics that are involved in this whole process.
For sure.
Wow, is all I can say.
Speaking
Wow.
speaking of what happened with the school shooting, the recent school shooting in Texas, one of the bigger things that people always overlook about that story, the biggest things that people always overlook about that story is the young man that went to the school and murdered those children and shot the teacher as well. The first thing he did leading up to that was he murdered his grandmother. For me, that was a glaring light right there. Like, what was going on in his home life? What was going on in his home life
And I agree.
that things could have
Yeah,
been stopped at a different point in his life. His course could have got corrected. He could have gotten help. Something could have been done, but it wasn't. Like you were saying, he was an individual that fell through the cracks. And now other families, that city in itself, this country had to pay the price for its negligence, for the people that we put in power, their negligence, should I say.
you got it. You got it. And that's where we are. That's where we are. Everything is being, as I said, politicized. And there are a lot of agendas out there.
Yeah.
There are a lot of agendas out there. And what isn't, in my humble opinion, creating safety and resources for people that are possibly suffering and not even aware that they're suffering. Also, from an economic standpoint, creating what we call a livable wage for individuals, to hopefully deter some of the chronic stressors that they're dealing with. And those chronic stressors is the ability to maintain a household and to run a house, comfortably. Part-time jobs don't allow that to happen. And we know that across time, these types of stressors can cause anxiety and depression. We know it. And those are two major mental illnesses that our mental health system are treating currently. Um, some of the things that I hope that they put in place, not only by funding, but they are doing what we call telemental health right now, which is definitely going to kind of curb individuals getting to assessments and individuals getting into actual sessions, with therapists, because it'll be kind of like what we're doing now, like a Zoom or setting, where they can actually, and the only problem I have with it is that you can't do hand-on assessments. You can only do the interview. You're still going to have to get the individual in, to do the actual assessments. But promoting and dispelling these stigmas that are stopping people from identifying the subtleties of the two that we're talking about, and based upon a lot of the things we're talking about, we're talking about three things that I think are near and dear to me: anxiety, depression, and suicide. They are, in my humble opinion, start to promote and market what we would call prevention information out there, not only just for mental health, but talking about suicide as well as substances as well, because substance abuse has really increased as well. And there's a lot more synthetic drugs out there, that individuals are using to cope with, which are creating those health risk behaviors, the medical situations that they're going through as well. So, in the midst of all of this, what do we do and where do it start to where we see some healing for the individuals that are suffering on all different levels? What do we do has always been a question of ours. It's always been when I look out and see a lot of these things occurring, and I look at my immediate family and the impact of what I'm saying and what it has on them. So, and I'm also looking at the old "it takes the village" philosophy. There has to be some collaboration, some collaboration across people, and I'll even go to the politics. And there have to be definitely some bipartisanism when it comes to the policies that they need to start us on track to not only reconciling, but rebuilding and strengthening families again.
I read something, and when I read it, it just set off a synapses in my brain, and I'll probably be unpopular by the black community for mentioning this, but regardless, it was about Donald Trump. And Donald Trump, during his presidency, lost close to $1 billion. Lost close to $1 billion. Now, I read that quite a few times because when I was reading that, what I was perceiving was he took this job, be it for pride or arrogance, he took this job in earnest for a reason. Money was not that reason. He was already rich. Money was not that reason. He did not take this job to get richer, and I believe it was President Roosevelt or it was Eisenhower. It was one of the two that stated that if I leave office, if I leave politics richer than when I came in, there's an issue. And and with that being said, it's like, why is the economy on the rise? I get it. The country's in debt. The country's in debt. The country's in debt. I've been hearing that since I was a child, into my adolescence, into my adulthood, and yet and still, I still don't know what it means. All right, who's in debt? Who in this country is in debt? This whole country, from the child that is born, that has barely opened their eyes, barely taken their first breath, who is in such debt? And the taxes and stuff, the economy raises, the price on that raises. Why? Why is it raising? Is it to accommodate bringing this country out of debt, or is it to accommodate the lifestyle that those above us have become accommodated to? that they live such a certain lavish lifestyle that they don't feel the need to take a step back or to be taken back to let the the load off the back of the little people, the everyday Joe. They're just like, no more. I need them to produce more, to put out more, to pay more, so I can still
Mm-hmm.
take my trip to the Bahamas. So for holidays, I can still have my Christmas in Hawaii. I can still, go vacation here or there.
Interesting. That's interesting. Powerful, but interesting. Wow. Wow. That's powerful. Um, that Trump. All I can say about 45 is he's a very bright and brilliant statistician. He's a strategic person,
Mm-hmm.
and there's nothing I believe he does without an outcome that he's perceiving or that he's perceived before he's done it.
For sure.
Um, and that's why I think he's very intelligent. I really do. He's an intelligent dude,
Mm-hmm.
and he knows how to play an audience. He knows how to sensationalize things, and he's very, very, very witty. I love what he did with the poll that he did. He did a poll survey. And I love how he gathered the information and how he marketed to specific individuals. He
Mm-hmm.
did that while he was in office as well.
Mm-hmm.
He's very smart. So when I'm cutting programs like he did, and a lot of programs that he cut impact the individuals that didn't have access to resources,
Mm-hmm.
as well as didn't have access to programs or services to maintain that family or the integrity of the family structure. You know, when he threatened Obamacare, that was truly crazy. When he threatened Social Security, that was truly crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But to him, it got him where he needed to be.
Right.
And it cut programs. It cut programs. It really did, and it cut programs, and it actually downsized programs. There's a method to his madness. I'm just not privy to that to the method. You
Likewise.
know.
Yeah. No. No. I never profess to be, on the inside of his inner mechanics, but just the fact that he knowingly lost money. He funded his own campaign, which he had the funds to do so. He never took backdoor deals or cash from anybody, but he knowingly lost money. And that just set off a thought to me that what if all these other politicians that we've placed in places of power, what if they took pay cuts? What if they
Wouldn't
decided?
that be interesting?
What if they decided?
But in a perfect world,
I'm
right?
saying and we're not even talking about forever. We're talking about just for 4 years. Just for 4 years, they decided
Yeah,
I'm going to take a pay
yeah,
cut.
yeah. That you know what? I like that one. That's another conversation for
For
me.
sure. Yeah, no, for me too. Yeah, but I'm just thinking back on
Wow.
the pressure that's put on uh the family unit, the pressure that's put on the single parents, the fathers and the single mothers that are carrying and financial stressors that contribute to depression, that bring about hopelessness. Uh that was just one aspect of it that I thought about. Like I was just like, man, I was like, what if,
Yeah. And you know what? And you know what? But you know what? The thing I want to share with you, first and foremost, is that history repeats itself.
Oh yeah.
And I'm gonna just share that with you, because you're you, and you will understand and appreciate what I'm saying because you actually look into things, and history is actually repeating itself. It really is, and they are using history, and I don't know who they are, so just want to
Right.
throw that out. They are using history to not only manipulate and make more money, but to ensure that generations and their families live as comfortable as they do.
Oh
And
yes.
that's the truth, and that's where I'm at. I can't prove it, but I truly believe that history repeats itself, and we have seen this before. And I don't know if we saw it during the Cold War or during certain wars. I don't know, but it's shown its head before. And I love it the way one person said it. They said that every crisis we go through in this particular country is a staged crisis with an economic outcome. And I'll leave it at that.
Hmm.
I'll leave it at that. I just will.
I have nothing more to add. Like that is a perfect cap to that.
Thank you. But yeah, man, I truly appreciate you inviting me on. Thank you so much. Organic is different. I love it. It's such a conversation,
For
such a
sure.
conversation, and I appreciate it because it stimulated me today, and not that I needed it because I'm kind of doing different things.
Right.
So thank you so much for allowing me to, be a part of something as progressive as this particular podcast. Thank you.
Thank you again for making time. And if you could leave the people with what you're working on currently, or some of your works, some of the ways to reach you on social media, let them know.
Sure. I'd love to do that. Well, I currently have a book out called Tribulations: The Trials of Adonis Marks, and it is a fictional biography. It's available on all sites, including Outskirts Press, Amazon.com, Barnes and Nobles, Walmart.com. You can definitely reach me at my Facebook or Instagram pages. My Facebook page is Roger Davis 23457 is my Facebook page. You can actually go out, like, follow, and share, and you'll definitely get an opportunity to read the, as I call it, the reviews about the book.
For sure.
Current book that I've got right now, hopefully will be released in the near future, is a book called Affirmations, and it's a book dedicated to the absent parents, and it's dealing with custody, visitation, and support issues. I just submitted that, and hopefully we'll get that approved and get that a press release date for that as well.
Awesome.
And definitely reach out to me on Instagram. And it will put the head it up, not the head. It's not up. But on Instagram, you can reach me at, because I'm looking at it. At Dr. Roger Davis, Adonis Marks, Dr. Roger Davis. That is Dr. Roger Davis at Adonis Marks, and that's my Instagram page as well. So
sure.
Those are some of the things I'm doing, and again, any support would be greatly appreciated. If you do get the book, you're in the area, I'd love to autograph it for you.
For sure.
And just thank you, man. That's how they could reach me at this point.
Well, as I said, I understand you're a very busy man, and I am most appreciative. I know the listeners and the fans are going to be most appreciative, and thank you.
Thank you a whole bunch, Frank. You have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon, sir.
You as well. Thank you.